This is Siobhan Conway interviewing Margaret Bothway about her experiences of UEA in the 60s. Hello. So, did you grow up around Norwich?
Yes, or? And I was actually born in Earlham Hall.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yes, in the window over the front door, because after the war it was a maternity hospital for a short while. So I was actually born there, yeah.
So you really have got a connection to UEA and its grounds. Yes. So how did Norwich react when they found out that the university was going to be built here? And that?
Well, a small minority, including my father, were up in arms because it took in the Earlham golf course. Oh. And that was where they used to play. But no, I think it was good. You know, it brought, well, obviously brought jobs and work.
Yeah.
But when there's change, there's always for and against, isn't there?
Yeah. So was it all green then? Was it all?
This was a complete 9-hole golf course. Yes.
Must have been huge.
Yeah.
And when did you first come to UEA to work?
1965. I was at college at 64, and then came here in 65, September 65.
And what do you remember of your first day?
Being terrified. We were in chemical sciences, but it was so free and easy. We used to wander in and out of the labs, and there'd be stuff bubbling and people with their arms in plastic things saying, "Here, come and look at this." I don't expect that goes on now. I mean, lucky if we put the glasses on. But
no, you couldn't get away with that now.
No. There was only like the dean, Professor Katritsky, and I think there was 2 senior people, and then most of them were postgraduate students.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a lot of undergrads around?
Well, we didn't mix with them much because the labs where the postgrads worked were joined onto the offices, so we tended to come and go and nip into there as often as we could because we were young ladies. Great. It was great fun. You know, it was like a family.
Yeah.
You know, everybody knew everybody.
Sounds really nice. And what was the campus like? 'Cause it was obviously being built. What was it like when you first arrived?
There was nothing here, obviously. Well, obviously it was, you know, we weren't using it. Earlham Hall was always the registry place, you know, where you did all the official stuff. And then the village, I think there was chemical sciences, biology, and social studies, which was sociology, philosophy. I think that was it when I first went. Yeah.
And then
they were wooden huts.
And how did it change over the 7 years you were here? Did it change?
Well, enormously, because I went from you know, just being a minnow over there, and then I came over when we moved. Professor Emerson he was the top professor of sociology, and then he became dean. And although I was young, I was only like 21, which would have been young, because I'd been with him for a couple of years. He said, "I'll only take the post, you know, I'll bring my own secretary." So I was really lucky that doors opened for me.
Yeah.
So I came with him here as Professor of Sociology. He then became Dean, and he then became Pro-Vice-Chancellor. So I got legs up the ladder by virtue of being attached to him.
And did you feel like a whole new wave of responsibility and duty when you became Secretary to the Dean and the Vice-Chancellor?
It was very different because we had a general office, and I can always remember going in there and it would go quiet, you know. I was then the enemy. But the woman before me was a real character, Isabel Jarvis. She worked for Professor Ross. That's right. He went off to work in a government advisory position. But he was terribly laid back. He just used to sort of swan about like some earl of something. I have to remember this is And Isabel used to smoke like a chimney. The office, you could hardly see her. You'd open the door and she'd be in there somewhere. And she used to call me in on important matters and then shut the door and say, "I've worked out my selections. Could you just pop down to the bookies for me?" important business. And then when she was doing her selections in the paper, she'd lock the door and put a note on saying, typing exam papers, do not enter.
I wonder how many of our lecturers really are doing that. So they're busy, they're betting on horses and stuff.
Yeah.
So different.
It was very free and easy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you wanted to go half an hour early, there was no clock watching or anything. You just cleared off. You know, just... And we knew everybody.
Yeah. And did it remain like that the whole time you were here, or did you feel
it had started to change? Yeah, it had started to change. I know when we were in the village, there was a cafeteria place, and we'd all go off at a certain time. We'd meet up with the girls that were in English and American studies, and you know, we were the only secretaries. I think there were 4 secretaries in chemical sciences, and that was it. You know, it's amazing.
And you said earlier that on the day that you did move, you got to wear trousers. What was that day like?
We had an actual memo round that saying that the women could wear trousers for that day, not jeans, only slacks, because we'd be lifting boxes, and we just mucked in. It was like a removal day. We carried our own files and loaded them into vans. It was you know, real good fun.
Imagine it was an operation to get it all across.
Well, it was a nightmare, yeah.
And was it kind of was it kind of a weird sensation being able to wear trousers to work? So I can imagine if you boys had to wear skirts.
Oh yes, we had, you know, massive instructions and discussions about what we'd be wearing. It was very important. You know, we felt really silly.
Good day.
Yeah, it was a good day.
And what was your daily life like? Like when you started working under Katritsky? What was?
Well, I had his senior secretary was in charge of me, and she was quite strict.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, you wouldn't survive in it. You know, if we were in the corridor and I ran into one of the other secretaries and, you know, we stopped to talk, and one of the lecturers or somebody came past, they'd say, haven't you got any work to do? You know, why are you out here? You know, we lived in fear. It was a bit like school.
Yeah.
You know, or if I'd gone into her office and we'd got talking about something and her boss came in, we'd quickly pretend, you know, that...
Doing work.
Yeah. Nowadays, you wouldn't give a monkeys, would you?
No.
Just say, hello, how are you?
So there was quite a difference between the lecturers and the secretarial staff.
Yes, definitely. But the sort of research associates and the lower links, they were, you know, much better. We got to type all the theses of the people doing PhDs and MAs and things.
That's been interesting.
Yeah, it was. But we did it on the side, so if our bosses came in, we'd toss it into the drawer.
And was Katritsky nice though? Was he like the old-fashioned lecturers? He was the typical mad scientist. Yeah, I remember when I went to see Roy Emerson just recently, we had a good old reminisce, and he said yes, he knew Katritsky because of Senate meetings and things, and he said some of the people out of chemical sciences were having a student revolt about something. It was all very organised, and he said that half a dozen of them had gone round, and they'd gone into history building, and the professor of history had come out and said, well, this has always gone on, you know, and you've got your rights and blah blah blah, and gave them a nice little talk and said, off you go. And then they went down to English and American, and the professor from EAS opened the door and said, oh, you know, I hope it goes well and keep it peaceful, and are you going to be sitting out and blah blah blah. And they went on again. They got to Katritsky's and knocked on his door, and he just opened the door and said, why are you not in the labs? And shut the door again. He wasn't one for politics.
No, he was quite nuts. But yeah, I didn't have any personal dealings with him. We just lived in fear of him. He stamped about the place and roared.
Sounds like a really interesting character.
Yeah, I suppose in this day and age you'd get under the cover of it all, but of course then you didn't. Yeah. You bowed and scraped and ran for it. Do you know what the protest was about, the science, or? No, it would have been something piddling.
Yeah. Because we were looking up at UEA, and there was a sit-in, I think it might have been about the time when you were secretary to the dean, about a student who was getting kicked out for drugs.
Yeah, no, I don't remember that.
Oh,
no,
okay.
I don't remember any drugs business. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I think it was about the time of Vietnam as well. I was worried because he was an American and he was going to get kicked out, and there was a huge sit-in, and I was wondering, but I guess
no, I must have missed that.
What feels big now might not have felt so big then, so it's quite interesting. Because now it'd be so different if someone got kicked out for drugs. You'd be like, well, if they've got them, they've got them.
And of course we didn't have all this business about everyone's got rights, you know. And
yeah.
It's changed so much. No, I don't remember there being much trouble at all. Maybe I just didn't see it.
So you did you feel like there was a political element in the students?
No, I didn't. No, not at all. We didn't get a feeling of that at all. No. It's funny, isn't it? It may just be that it didn't, affect me. But I don't remember there being any trouble. And if there was, there was respect for your professor or your dean.
Yeah.
They had respect. They still didn't march in and out and shout the odds like they do now.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think of the protests now? Because they're so different from what it would have been.
Well, I suppose it's like everything else. As it gets bigger, the problems get bigger. And we've become very American in as much as we want to sue everybody, and every aspect of life has become watch your back, hasn't it? Yeah,
it has. And especially the student protests, they got such big news. It was for the spees. What were your impressions of the students that were generally around? Because you said that you only really dealt with the postgrads.
Yeah, they were okay. We never had any trouble, but then probably I was regarded as quite important, as Dean's secretary. They were always very polite and used to come in and ask to see him, and he was a very gentle person, the chap I worked for, so he would always, see them or help them. I don't remember having a lot of trouble. No.
And how do you think the students were kind of viewed within Norwich itself? Do you think the residents of Norwich were welcoming, or do they think that
I would think, knowing Norwich, they probably weren't. They would probably be fearing them with drugs and dreadlocks, And I always used to say to people that said anything, you've got to look at them, and they're somebody's little boy, aren't they? They're somebody's child. They're not monsters. In fact, the students used to be quite surprised when they found that we were normal. I think that the biggest barrier was that they expected us to be against them, and when we sort of mucked in and had a laugh with them, they were quite surprised that we were accepting. I think the temptation was to be students and others.
Like at school, I guess.
Yes. Because we didn't have canteens or anything when we first came over here. There was nothing. We had a sandwich machine outside the lifts. But that was mostly for us because students couldn't afford them. Yeah.
And students lived off campus, didn't they? Or was there places for them to live on campus?
The first students came when we moved over here in 1965. Did this plane become open?
I think some of it.
Yeah. I was already working over here, and we were taken on a grand tour of the new residences, and they were all rooms like that with a shared kitchen. I expect they still are they? Yeah.
And what did you think of the buildings? Because obviously, were the ziggurats there?
Yeah, we were horrified. Oh, how ugly! All that concrete. Yeah. And now they've become like an iconic thing, haven't they?
Yeah, they're listed. I think one of them's listed now.
Well, they look nice from down where the lake is. Yeah. I think they look super.
And because the contrast between the lake and the massive concrete that is UEA is kind of nice. And did you live nearby, or did you have to commute?
No, I lived in Eton, and as I said, when I first came here, I'd had a riding accident and had a leg in plaster, and I had to be delayed for a month.
Yeah. And
then obviously couldn't. Let me think. I would be. Oh, that hasn't changed then. Somebody, they're blind. I was 17 when I first came, and we lived off Church Lane, and my father used to drive me to work every day and then come and pick me up. And then I learnt to drive, and the driving instructor used to pick me up in the village. Yeah, we got a lot of that. And then, as I say, when I first got the car, my pride and joy, you just parked wherever. You know, we just parked on the slip road up to the Earlham Hall, and then walked across. There weren't any car parks; it was a sort of free for all.
And you said you got on with your fellow colleagues. Did you socialise outside of UEA, or did you mainly socialise at work?
Well, I lived with one of the girls who was secretary in my school. As I said, she then went off to Anglia, and we stayed living together, and I still see her. But no, we didn't really. No. We used to have sort of grand evenings out, you know, all pre-arranged, but no, we just had different lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember one of the girls that I worked with, I think she's on one of these pictures, Pat Fulsher. She was engaged to a coalman. And he used to come and pick her up from work sometimes in the coal lorry. And I mean, can you imagine when you're like 18 or 19? She was so embarrassed. She used to make him go round the back of where Estates is, because she had to hitch her skirt right up to get up in the lorry. And it was absolutely mortifying to be picked up in the coal lorry. Dear, no. I haven't seen her since then. And then this other girl was a girl that came from the Isle of Man. Pat Skillicorn, her name was. Yeah, she was a nice girl.
So you all were you all the same age as secretaries?
Pretty much, yes. Yeah.
Quite young, yeah.
Yeah. So.
And did you all start around the same time as the uni?
The three of us that were in chemical sciences, yes, we'd all come straight. That was our first job from college. Yeah. And
was it what you expected, the job, or?
I think so, yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yes, I remember my first pay packet. I can remember exactly what I bought with it. For the month was £36 something. Imagine that.
Hey.
For a month. And I bought a skirt and a jumper out of Marks and Spencer's. Remember that? Incredible.
Must have been a really nice feeling to have your own pay packet.
Oh yeah. Yes, it was good.
And did you have many memorable moments when you were here, or?
Just trying to think. Come in. We had a chap called John Jackson who came from Skibbereen in Ireland, and they were all characters. They sort of worked at being characters, the professors and lecturers. And he always had like a Rupert Bear scarf and a tam o' shanty, one of those flat black caps.
Oh yeah.
They all smoked like chimneys. And he lived out in a sort of farmhouse at Keswick, and he used to have parties out there and always invited all the secretaries, and we always felt quite honoured at going, because there was lecturers and postgrads and research people there. You know, it was your boss was protective of you. You know, the chap I worked for was very, very protective of me.
Did that feel nice though, that you had that sort of protection there?
Yes. Yeah. Oh yes, I think you know, I felt quite secure. It was a good job. I never considered moving, because as I say, I'd got legged up the ladder sooner than I should have done. And then he ceased being dean, and the economics professor, Peter Hill, became dean, and I'd got about 6 months to do. I was pregnant with my first child, and I stayed on with him, but he was what you'd call a dry stick. You know, there was no humour in him, and
yeah,
we just didn't hit it off, and I stayed until I left at the Christmas and had Lucy in the May. So but you know, it's like when you leave, and my whole life was different. I got married, I was pregnant, you know. I then went on to be a young mum, and work was forgotten.
Yeah. Was you upset to leave, or were you kind of excited about what was coming?
I was pleased because it was, you know, moving on. I couldn't wait to leave. Yeah.
Especially because you had going to have a child. It's quite nice sensation. Yes. And when did you get married? What year did
71.
Oh, okay.
Got married in the May, and then had Lucy in the May 72. Not planned. We were going to, you know, both work and make lots of money and do all these things. And then I got pregnant. So we had our first child within the year. But that was nice. I mean, things were different then. I was 25.
Yeah.
You know, that's quite young nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. And do you still live around Norwich? Or?
Yes, I've lived within spitting distance of the uni. I'm out at Ketteringham, which is about 4 miles out. But yes, I'm Norwich born and bred. My father taught at the CNS all his teaching life, and my brother taught at Langley. So yeah, we're Norwich people.
And how have you seen the uni change? Have you seen it?
Well, just get bigger and bigger, really.
Yeah.
You know, new buildings going up all the while. You'll soon be bursting out of your plot.
We've got them all up there as well now. It's like starting to move around the lakeland. It's kind of weird, but I guess it's a part of
They'll
the
have
expansion.
to. The lake will be the sort of border, won't it?
Yeah.
With stock. It's quite interesting to see the new residences on the road with the sort of yellow fronts. I quite like them.
They're really nice inside.
Are they nice? Yeah. Is it the same layout? You know, you have a room and a shared kitchen.
You have a shared kitchen, but those ones now you have your own bathroom.
Really?
It's like a wet room on a ferry sort of thing. So they're nice, but the ziggurats still remain. And we've got a campus building in the city as well now.
Oh, really? Where's that?
It's Prince of Wales Road. It's kind of off there, just behind the river.
Yeah.
And there's a building there for those that I guess were kind of late with their housing applications. So I guess, but it's still shared kitchen and stuff like that.
So do you come onto campus as a prelim, you know, first year? Yeah,
I lived on campus. I lived in one of the new blocks, but now we live in rented accommodation.
You can move out, in your second or your third year?
Second year.
Yes. Oh, that's good.
It's I guess it has changed. And do you feel like the reputation of it's changed in the city itself?
Not really. I don't think you hear much, you know, trouble about university.
Yeah.
No, I think it's been accepted. I mean, the residences, they had those awful residences out at Pfeiffer's Lane, didn't they, when they first started?
Yeah.
At Horsham. And they used to bus the students in and out. We went to a couple of raving parties there, I remember, yes.
Because when you started, you were 17, so you were younger than a lot of the undergrads that came. So I can imagine it was quite nice to socialise with them. Quite a treat, actually, to kind of with them all.
But we felt a bit inferior because we were secretaries and they were important students. You know, I think probably easier to mix now because, you know, you're accepted. The old class system and the social strata is pretty much wiped out, isn't it?
Yeah. And were you allowed to mix with the undergrads?
We weren't supposed to, no. But then you didn't have much, you know, you were working for your person and you say you didn't really need to. I mean, sometimes there were things to hand out, or if the students came in to hand in stuff late, you know, you'd do your best to get it there or tell a few lies for them.
Yeah. And was it a nice atmosphere then to work here? I can imagine it was a really
very nice because everybody knew everybody. If you walked down your corridor, you knew everyone that was in all the offices. You know, and if they came out and said hello, we had one general office, and all the lecturers and research students would come in and get their mail out of a, you know, big post thing.
And how many schools were here when you first started?
There was, I think, wasn't biology the first one over here?
Yeah, it was quite a scientific university when it started.
And chemistry, biology and chemistry, because that That must be the chemistry block, because I'm on the end of the arts block.
Oh, yeah.
Because we had an external fire escape and we used to go and stand out there when it was hot. Yeah, and that was the old estates building, just the prefabs. They're still in the same place, aren't they?
Yeah, there's some, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So these were the residences then, weren't they? Because you could see them from the arts building.
Yeah, that's, I think, Norfolk Terrace. Yeah. And is that the library that they're building? Is that one
let
there?
me have a look. Yes, that must be, mustn't it? Oh, yeah. Goodness me.
It must have so much room to build on here when they must have first started.
Well, it was like a building site, you know, we used to stumble about in bricks and stuff. Yeah, it was good.
And do you think that the design is good of the university?
I think so, yes. I mean, it's very difficult to see a long way into the future, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we hated all this horrible breeze block business, because, I mean, that was relatively new, to have, like, concrete on the inside of the office. But, of course, now a lot of buildings are put up like that. We did have a lot of trouble, as I say, with sort of leaking, oozing joints and things. Yeah, no, it was pretty disgusting. But they are still using it. Is that how they're building still?
The new buildings, the concrete isn't really exposed.
Right.
The newest one I can think of is Thomas Paine, and it's quite open spaced sort of thing. It's not really like this one. It's more, I guess it's more modern. So I guess how like this was built with the times in mind, that one has as well. So I guess they're kind of built for their era.
But they've stood up well. I mean, presumably their residences have been refurbed several times.
I guess they,
must have done, yeah.
They still got the stairs when you go in, and it's kind of all like that.
Doors
so
off, yeah.
It's kind of interesting when you're walking down them. But no, it's a nice atmosphere to be on. And by the sounds that you sound like you really enjoyed.
I did, yeah.
Being here, so it clearly was a good place to work as well as study. And so you said that you didn't feel like it was very political, and like the 60s and the 70s were always remembered as this time of like revolution and everything. So
I know, but it was all innocent stuff, flower power, and you know, sort of peace and all the rest of it. John Lennon-ish stuff.
So was there a lot of Beatles memorabilia everywhere?
Yes. Yeah, it was dreadlock. Dreadlocks have come round again, haven't they? Because there were dreadlocks then. Yeah, it was definitely a non-washing. We always remember a lot of that. There was a lot of, you know, I don't suppose they actually smelt, but they looked as if they should.
Yeah.
Really scruffy. The idea was to look like a student. You know, it's quite funny. And the sports bit where they've built there was just like a Nissan hut, and it was all tennis courts and things. Oh, I had a picture of that. I should have bought that, yes. Because when my kids were small, we sponsored a tennis tournament and we used the UEA courts. They had some red courts up there.
Oh.
And I've got a picture of our logo and us sweeping the snow off the court in April in order for the kids to play.
April?
Yeah, exactly. But now, of course, that's got that great big building. What's that building down by the road?
They've built a huge sports park. It's got like a really big swimming pool, like an Olympic size, and a gym. And I think it's mainly, I don't know if there are tennis courts there now, but they've got a lot of football pitches.
Yes, and they've got the all-weather hockey pitch, haven't they?
Yeah.
And a track. Yes, I have been in there. Yeah.
So when you were working here, were there a lot of sports going on?
No, it was just like the sports hall over there, where we used to play badminton. We used to go out at lunchtime and play, and then come back like beetroots, you know, in the afternoon, and sit there all sweaty. That was the main sports hall that was built first.
Yeah. And were there any sports teams or that competed with other unis?
Not that I can remember. I mean, there must have been, because there's always sport, isn't there?
So with Derby Day now, where they compete at Sports with Essex.
Right.
It was yesterday, and I think UEA lost.
Oh no.
Essex won, so it's good atmosphere.
Is UEA regarded as a good uni to get to?
Yeah, and not in the city. It's kind of joked about that it's not.
It is joked about, yeah, a bit like Loughborough used to be when it was
Yeah.
Loughborough College. Oh, you know, that didn't count for anything, did it?
But it's got recently it's been in the top 150 in the world.
Right.
So I guess it has got a good social standing, but it's quite interesting that the city, it's not seen
It's regarded
as
a lesser university.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it odd to think that when you started here it was a new university and it's now in the world rankings?
Yes, we didn't regard it on a par with anything we'd heard of, you know, like proper universities like Newcastle, and my sister went to Newcastle. Yes. But then that's like anything that's home built, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you don't like your own local accent, but people from away say, oh, what a lovely accent. But makes me cringe. I hate the Norwich accent.
I quite like it.
Do you?
Yeah. Because my one's a bit common, I guess. I always get called uncommon, so I quite like the Norwich accent. But the students, when they came, were they from all over? Were they from Norwich or Norfolk in particular? Or
no, I think they were from all over. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I don't know whether when we first started, we would be like second choice if you didn't get into your first choice. I don't know, because I wasn't in the admissions bit of it. But yeah, that was always a trauma getting in. We had that system where you're sort of the dregs, and then you have to reapply. I can't remember what it was called. Late applications, or if your grades weren't what you were expected to get, you could sort of either change courses or, you know, major in something different. There was always a big brouhaha getting onto the right courses. And then at the end of the first year, there was a trickle of tearful students saying they'd chosen the wrong course and could they change, and swapping round, you know.
yeah.
So there was always quite a few that would register and do the first year and not like it, and then change course. But then, yeah, I expect that still happens.
And was it easy to change courses?
Pretty much, yeah, I think so, yeah. Yeah, they did
That's
swap
good.
about quite a bit.
And then when you started being secretary for the dean, what were the dean's duties then? Because I can imagine they're quite different from now. What were his sort of roles did he have in the university?
I don't think, as I was saying to you earlier, he didn't enjoy it. He liked his work as a sociologist.
Yeah.
And when he took over as dean, he said it was just meeting after meeting, red tape, Senate meetings, sitting there being, you know, doing paperwork. And he didn't like it so much. He didn't have time for what he really wanted to do. He was doing research into leisure in Norfolk, you know, how leisure time would be spent. And I think he then appointed a couple of research associates to go out in the field and do his stuff. And he felt he lost touch with it.
Yeah.
And I think he came out away from the university long before retirement age, and went to work for the Norfolk Health Society. So he was in health. He wasn't happy here. But at the time, I didn't realise that.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes to see.
Yeah, no, he felt he was undermined. But then, as I say, he was not a strong, forceful character. You know, he was. He'd come from Derby. Yeah.
And did is it Hill, did he enjoy, was he more
I don't know, he wasn't the sort of person that you had any personal relationship with. No, he was strictly business only.
And did the students go to the deans if they had issues, or was it more he dealt with members of the staff?
No, he had his students, because he still did do a bit of lecturing. He was very good with them. Yeah, no, he was good with them. I think if they had problems, they went to the admin assistants. Do you still have them? We have one in each school. Administrative assistant, who dealt with all the sort of office work and the registering and paperwork stuff, not the academic stuff.
We had the system's been changed recently, and it's kind of controversial. Not everyone kind of knows what's going on, so I guess it's always changing, and no one quite knows the system. And when you started, it was quite a small uni. Did you feel like it was expanding in the 7 years in terms of like schools and student numbers as well?
Yes, I suppose so. Although you tended, even more when we got here, we tended to be, the school then became our family, whereas in the village, there was only 3 or 4 schools. We then did segregate. And the arts building, are we in the arts building?
Yeah.
Yes. Where you went in the main entrance, everything to the left was social studies, and everything to the right was EAS, English and American Studies.
Yeah.
So that was 2 complete schools housed, and we hardly crossed over, you know. If we had to go up the other end, it was like foreign territory.
So it's quite a change when you moved over here. It wasn't
did
just moving
change
buildings.
because, yeah, just because of the physical side of it, you know. The school was bigger. I mean, there were more lecturers appointed. You know, there was only 3 lecturers when we started over there. A professor and 3 lecturers in social studies.
And do you still feel like a connection to UEA? Because as you said, it's the only place you've worked. Do you feel the connection now?
But it's odd. I suppose it's like everything when you move on. You expect it to, you know, have some sort of memories and things. Yes, I do in a way. When I was walking down here, I was sort of had the feeling, you know, students brushing past me, I was thinking, you don't realise I used to work here. You know? I felt like stopping them and saying, you know, I'm not some old bid.
Were they helpful, the students today, or?
I didn't need to. I spotted you looking lost immediately.
Hoping that we would be able to see each other quite easily.
No, I think a lot of people have a preconceived idea about students, that they're lazy, they don't do anything, they're dirty, you know, they're living off the state.
Yeah.
And as I say, you know, you've just got to look at them, they're somebody's son, and normally when you get to speak to them, they're just the same as everyone else. Yeah, no, I think it's a good period in your life. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Because I think if you miss out on that and go straight into what I call living, there's some sort of point where you blow up. You know, you need to have that freedom and time to sort of find yourself. It's not all about the learning, is it?
No.
It's the living and being away from home, making your own decisions. You know, it's a big thing. You've got to multitask and do washing and no ironing, of course.
No, you come up with tricks to avoid ironing.
Yeah.
Come up with them very quickly.
Well, the boys very quickly get girlfriends.
When it started, were boys and girls able to mix? Did they live in the same flats, or were there segregated flats?
I think they were mixed, because there was just Norfolk and Suffolk terraces then. I'm not sure, to be honest. Might have been girls' areas and boys' areas.
And was it an equal mix of boy-girl students, or were it predominantly boys? Oh,
no, I think it was pretty much, yeah.
And when you look back, do you have mainly fond memories of UEA of your time here?
Yes.
That's good.
Yes, I do, yes.
Does seem like you did have, when you worked here, you did have a really good time.
We did have a good time, but then we were of the ilk that we would have been students. That was our age, 17 to 20.
Yeah.
So we connected pretty well with the lifestyle and of course we were a bit more disciplined. We had to work hours and put the time in as and when. But no, we did have a good time. Yeah, I think it's a nice environment to work.
And do you keep in touch with many of the people that you used to work with? You've spoken about a couple.
Yes, no, I don't. As I say, I went and saw Professor Emerson, you know, after 40 years. How I was ever in awe of him, I don't know, he's a poor old boy now. But, as I said, he didn't have very fond memories at all. You know, he said he felt he hadn't sort of reached his potential. I think he probably got shoved up the hierarchy ladder, and he would have fared better if he'd been shoved up the academic ladder.
So did you not really get the choice of becoming dean? Was it more
I would
put on
think,
to him?
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't have been in on those sort of decisions, but I always remember it as being a terrific honour. You know, I remember thinking, God, you know, this is important, but I don't suppose they do now. I mean, I would be young and impressionable and think I was well important, you know, to be secretary to the dean. But, you know, I don't know how they fare now. Presumably you still have deans and dean's secretaries, do you?
Yeah, I think we have deans of school, and we have the vice chancellor's office over there. But I don't really think the vice chancellor. I've never seen him. I don't know who he is.
Our vice chancellor was Frank Thistlethwaite, who was very quite sort of stuffy and old hat, you know. Yeah. Unapproachable, and I forgot that was on. Have I said anything rude?
No, don't worry about it.
You'll have to edit it.
And the vice chancellor now, it's more they have different people that work under the office, so you don't really see them. Yeah. So is he sort of like that, not very approachable to students, or?
I don't honestly know. I don't remember when Emerson was made pro-vice chancellor. I don't remember there being any great difference. Yeah. I mean, presumably he went to other meetings, but I would just provide the papers and shove him off, so I wouldn't have probably known. But I know that it took all these non-academic duties are detrimental to any work you really want to do, and I think he was quite passionate about where he'd seen his research going. He was keen, and then of course he didn't have the time to put in on it.
No, I can imagine the dean, it does take all the time.
I mean, it just turned into an office job. You know. You can't just shut the door and say, I'm busy working on my own project. Yeah, I can remember. I mean, I hardly had any secretarial work relating to his work. Hardly any. Probably less than 20% of the work that I did, the typing and the stuff. Because we didn't have computers, ours was all click-to-clack. Yeah. We didn't even have photocopiers. We had a ghastly thing called a Xerox machine, where you had to cut the stencils on your typewriter, so each letter, as it hit the material, cut the letter, and then you fixed it onto a roller and filled it up with black ink, and you wound it round and it printed off however many copies you wanted.
Different. Oh. And were you all typewriting trained at college?
Yeah. Touch typing and shorthand. We all did, you know, took our letters by shorthand and then got our heads together to try and decipher what it was.
And do you remember any of the shorthand now? Is it all completely gone?
I sometimes try and take the news down. Yes, it's quite... Or, because my daughter did the same, she's now got twins, 7-year-old boys who can now read, so we write things in shorthand for each other. You know, has Sam got swimming tonight? Because Ollie's got a cold and we don't want to go, you know, because they can read. And they say, what are all these squiggles? Secret writing. Oh, Lucy will pick out and say, whatever's this, Mother? Dear Lucy, thank you for your letter of the 7th inst. Yeah, it's good fun. And then she got a job in estates, and she was working for a chap called Joseph Sanders. Does that ring any bells? No?
No.
I think he was some sort of project manager for the sports, because it's all linked, isn't it, the sports hall and the estates. And and her partner, Simon, still works there. He's a refrigeration technician.
My dad does that.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Over here?
No, he works in Norwich, but not here. But yeah,
oh, how amazing!
That's his job.
Simon's been here 15 years, because that's how he met Lucy. She was working for this Joseph, whatever his name is. Yeah. And met Simon, and they now live over in Eton, sort of 10 doors away from where I lived. And both worked at the uni. I mean, talk about deja vu.
Such a real connection to the uni.
She said she'd seen old documents with my name on, you know, old telephone directories and things. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Very weird to think that there's something, because you were born here and you worked here and your daughter worked here. It's very much a tradition. Yeah. One of your grandsons could come here and study. Yeah. So weird.
Yes, they could do, that's true. I better start saving up money.
And Question on top of my head. So, what was I going to say? Sorry.
No, you're all right. You must be getting near the end, are we? I'm roasting. Are you hot?
It is very hot in here.
As I say, we started off this water ski club. I think we were like the first people that started it. And my brother, he worked at Bolton & Paul's in the city. They were a big steel and building construction place, but he was a computer whiz. And he was chief mechanic. He used to maintain all the boats and drive the boats. And it was the most disgusting place. It was Taverham Lakes. Do they still use it, do you know?
I don't know where they go now. There's still something.
I'm sure it is at Taverham. And of course there was nothing there. This was the launching jetty. You just jumped off the grass. And we used to come out with leeches and things stuck to us and have all sorts of rashes. It was disgusting, but we were ace skiers.
Fun though. Just you don't think about
fun.
What's in the lake.
No, we had some cracking times down there. Probably health and safety, you wouldn't be able to do it now.
Well, there's a lot of sports teams and society teams, but there's a powerboat society at the moment.
Oh, right.
They've bought a powerboat, which just seems
awfully
crazy.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
Don't write home and tell your parents.
No.
Powerboating.
So was that for colleagues or was it also for students? Or?
No, that was students as well.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I just muscled in because I was Ian's sister. They were all students.
Oh, so did your brother go to the university?
No, he went to King's in London.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, where my father went, so that was a tradition.
Yeah.
No, I don't know how he got involved, although he was going out with a girl who was doing an MA, and they later married, so that would probably be it. Tessa probably said, oh, my fiancé is good on mechanics. He used to drive the boats and maintain them all. I don't know how that dog's got in on it. Certainly wasn't at uni. And we had all these skis that were bought out of the uni funds, and we just locked them in a wooden shed like you would on a, that was it. That was the clubhouse. The skis locked in a wooden shed.
And were the uni quite open for providing money for different social clubs?
Well, they must have been for that. Yeah. We were keen. We used to be down there on a Thursday night.
And when you were here, was there a sort of meeting place for students? Like, so now we have the bar and the...
I don't remember doing much over here, but I know when we were younger and over in the other place there was, it was, what's it called? Just the social club. Yeah. And they would have bands and things, and it was just drink as much beer and throw up as quick as you could.
Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed, that's right. No, I do remember that the students' mess being fairly messy.
Can imagine give students alcohol. God, you don't know what's going to happen. And do you ever think that that UEA was influenced by what was going on in the world, or do you think it was kind of isolated and it kind of just went with its own thing? Because obviously there was like the civil rights movement and stuff like that.
I don't know because we tended to be separate from that. Would have been unseemly for any of the staff to side with any of it. I know whenever we had minor demonstrations, we were always told to keep in our offices and keep the door shut and keep away from the windows. It's not good to be looking at it. Don't give them encouragement.
And were you here when the Queen came for her visit, or?
I don't remember that. When did she come?
She came in 1968.
I must have been then, yes.
I think it was. I remember her sister came and there was a...
I must have been here, yeah. But we probably weren't given the day off or anything.
No.
Or we probably were given the day off and we legged it off somewhere.
So did you not feel like the Queen coming...
I don't remember that.
Maybe it wasn't seen as such a big furore that she came. But
no, I don't remember. I don't remember that. Mind you, it's a long while ago.
Yeah.
Could have happened and me not remember it.
It's interesting though that you weren't allowed to join in if there was events going on, because now it's seen as normal for the lecturers to support students.
Yeah, no, we were
in there.
It was to be discouraged at all events.
Did you have ever times when you were agreeing with what the grievances were about, or were you generally on the side of the academia?
We tended to, think, oh, get on with it.
Yeah.
But we did appreciate that it's all part of growing up, to be able to... I didn't think the lecturers were against it, because I think they still remembered that they'd done it.
Yeah.
I think they were fairly tolerant. Yeah, no, I don't remember anybody being aggressive, any trouble at all. Like I say, when you see a mass, it's like when you're in the city and three loutish boys come towards you making a row, it's quite intimidating, but if you separate them, they're three young lads. And students en masse can look quite frightening, can't they?
Yeah, they can.
Especially if they're making a lot of noise.
And do you think Norwich has changed in the last few years in its ways, or has it remained a city that you remember when you were younger?
No, it's got very busy. Very busy. We're stuffed with people and cars especially. It's got very busy. And dangerous, I mean, we would think nothing of walking home or being in the city, but I wouldn't want to walk down Prince of Wales Road at 2 o'clock on a Saturday night now.
No, I can imagine Prince of Wales Road, that area in particular,
well,
has
you pick the paper
changed.
up and there's always somebody being stabbed or, something happened. And, I know it sounds a bit old-fashioned, but just never heard of it, I mean, the worst thing in my day was if somebody threw a punch, But there was no knives, nothing dangerous could happen to you. But then that's a sign of the times. I expect in 50 year times everyone will have guns.
Oh God. Yeah. That's a happy image. Hopefully not.
I shall be trying to aim it and my hand will be shaking to shoot 3 people.
Oh God, hopefully not. Hopefully it will be peaceful.
Go the other way, yes.
Yeah. We'll turn around. Because Norwich does seem very busy, and I always wondered if it was always like this, or whether it's a new thing.
No,
the way the city's always.
It is quite crowded. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. And of course, this is all in conjunction with us having this big new hospital at the same time. Really, in the last 10 years, I mean, the buses have doubled coming this way because of going on to the hospital. There's twice as many. And they're always packed with people with appointments at the hospital. And you've got John Innes, and this whole area is... But I know the biggest brouhaha was where to build the university.
Yeah.
Where was the other site? It was somewhere over the other side. Was it up by Asda or somewhere? But I can remember we all thought that was mad, and this was by far the best site. And the same with the hospital, they were talking about building that somewhere else.
Yeah.
But there just seems to be so much more room and better roads and infrastructure this way.
So was it always seen as it should be here, but because I guess this land, it was kind of owned by the Eden family, who were quite known, the Fry family. So do you think it's kind of nice that the uni was built on such kind of historic ground, I guess, because the ground itself's got quite a lot of history.
I don't know, it's the same old story. Once something's here, it feels like it's always been here.
Yeah.
It just feels right. And it isn't in the middle of anything.
No.
You've got Norwich, and then the university's got room to just spread till it meets the hospital.
Yeah. Keep building on the sports field.
Yes. This school is having a big... isn't it? Turning into an academy or something? The school next door to you?
Oh yeah, I think it's turning into a city academy.
Yes. So. Yeah, that's had a massive building, hasn't it? And then presumably once they're into it, they'll pull the old buildings down, will they?
I think so. I think that's the plan. They're kind of building around the current school so that it can carry on existing. And if UEA were to, rebuild and start, do you think it would lose some of its character if it was to start changing the cigarettes?
There's always turnover, it will evolve, won't it? Buildings have a life, presumably. But as you say, the residences have been made listed, haven't they? So they'll presumably just keep patching them up.
Wonder how long they'll last. Although they were built...
Well, they last forever. I live in a house that's 500 years old. You just keep patching it up. Yeah.
Especially because they're made of concrete. You know?
Yeah. Have we exhausted ourselves, do you think, of info? Well, only if these any good for you?
They were really good. They really, especially like the ones.
View ones,
yeah.
yes.
So it's really interesting to see, but it's just funny how... Like,
they're going to fit in, they're not, are they?
No, they're really interesting. It's just so funny that you were able to just parked
underneath
there.
And came up the fire escape.
Do that now. They're really against cars.
I know, and we'd have like some builder's van in front of you, you know.
It's really different, especially these old prefabs here.
Yes.
In the background.
Yeah, that was the buildings and estates. Very grand. So, do you want to copy any of them, or do you want me to leave them with you, or what do you want to do with them?
We can get them copied. I can find, because there's a copier outside. I don't know if we can use it. We can get them copied for you, so we can get them back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine, yeah. Shall I leave them all, and you can choose which ones you want?
Yeah. I think they'll all be pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, it just, it shows that my office hasn't changed in 40 years, has it? I'm sitting by the window, but you can see my old typewriter.
But it hasn't changed at all. Like. Literally. Probably the desks are the
Used
same.
to freeze in the winter and sweat your nuts off in the summer. It's pretty much the same,
It's
isn't
pretty hot in here.
It is. There we are, I'll leave them. You've got all my details, haven't you?
Yeah.
And when I started here, I was Haddon.
Yeah.
Then when I got married, I was Richmond. Don't ask, I've since been married again.
That's fine.
Is this mine to keep, or is that for you?
We can keep this, if that's okay.
Yeah,
it's just so like we can
to
use
show that
your
you
things,
can use it, yeah.
All that you said, and it'd be really good because I think we're planning on doing something for the 50th. They want to do like a notice board and stuff about it. So it's just
I'll come up and see some people I recognise.
Yeah, we've got so many people that replied, but they couldn't all be done, which is a shame. There's such a small group, but. Be really interesting to get someone who works his perspective.
Yeah.
So thank you for agreeing to take
No, that's
part.
fine. Finish my tea.